Welcome to the Madman Plant Podcast. Today we have a special guest all the way from Michigan. This is Tommy from the Detroit Nutrient Company. Welcome.
How you doing?
Thank you for being here. I got my co-host Paul from Hydroculture. Yep. So this is an exciting episode because, as I've mentioned hundreds of times on social media and different things, I've only used this soil ever. And this living soil is to die for, and if you don't use it right now, you're missing out. And I really want you to get online or go to Hydroculture if you're local and pick up a bag. You're going to see a difference in the garden. So let's talk about it a little bit.
So Great Lakes Water Only is a start to finish living soil. We've been in business for about 10 years, and living soil is not something that I invented. It's how every plant on the planet was grown. Until about 1912, we just came out with a great potting version of it. We won a cup with High Times, been on the strongest strain in the universe a half a dozen times, and broke a record with High Times with it. So we're sure that it works. And we started out selling just our worm castings in the very beginning, and we used the worm castings to build our first living soil, and that's how we won the cups. And then people asked us, you know, especially back then, there was a lot more excitement around the competitions when they let all the caregivers in. So people asked us how that we won the cups, and we explained to them, and they said, well, you should sell the living soil. So we went out and we worked with some scientists, some agronomists, and we made sure we tuned in the draining and aeration to make it more of a potting mix for everybody to use. So it is a true start to finish. It's a big misconception. A lot of people think it's impossible to grow a plant from start to finish using water only, but I mean, that's how we've only been synthesizing nutrients for about 70 years. That's how, and we ate up to now. So obviously it works, and you know, you get comparable yields, you get twice the flavor. You know, you don't have to pH, you don't have to mix chemicals, you don't have to flush. These are all steps. It simplifies things. You know, a lot of times we have, it's very common for veterans and older people to be interested in growing homegrown cannabis. You know, obviously, Paul, you know that. Of
course.
And so these are the people that we had in mind. I'm one of the, I have a mother that I love very much, and I think about what it's going to be like when I am not able to get around the way that I'm able to get around now and do things. And so with living soil, you don't have to water nearly as often or as much. You water about 7% of your soil volume every third day. And you're not mixing anything, you're not flushing, you're not, you know, dragging stuff around. It's pretty simple for everybody to use. And we really had that in mind when we put it to market, was we wanted to make it so everybody could grow cannabis. I think at a certain point, we're all culpable in trying to make people think it's harder than what it is, because we want people to maybe get it from us, you know? So I wanted to dispel a lot of myths and show people you could do it. And we have been doing it, and we've got quite a following nationwide. And so, and most importantly, on every single bag of that soil is a phone number. And so when you see, whenever somebody says online that they don't believe it works, on that bag is a phone number, and the phone number calls the phone that's in my pocket right now. And so if you have a question or you aren't able to figure out how to go from start to finish, you can call that number and actually talk to me, and I'll help you work through any problem that you have.
That's some top tier customer service.
Yeah, I would say that's
right
some customer service.
And that's what separates us.
Yeah.
You know, what's the difference between me and my competitors? That's the difference. I stand behind my product so much so that you can call me and complain if you think it doesn't work. And in today's market, nobody does that. And it doesn't just work for cannabis. It also, you know, it's great for tomatoes. It's great for vegetables. You use it in Madman Pepper. You know,
it's been fantastic. Actually, not to interrupt you, but our peppers this year, along with me and Mad Madam, have been the best because we did not use Miracle Grow. We used Great Lakes Water Only, and it was so great. I mean, you saw them outside, you know, and no nutrients on those. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just as is. Just, you know, feed them to the wind and let them go, and it has done wonders.
You know, utilizing just basically some really old recipes. I mean, I came across it. with some good old boys in northern Michigan that started out guerrilla growing. Before there was legal marijuana, most of us were outlaws, and these guys, when you have to go out into the woods to feed your plant, you don't want to be traipsing back and forth. That's how you get caught, So they'd build these living soils, and these were farmers. These were old school guys, and so they taught me how to. They were and breeders, and they taught me how to build soil, and really we just expounded on it from there, and we tried to popularize it. I believe in it. I think that people deserve access to healthy medicine, and these particular guys one of them had a sister that had really bad seizures, and so that's how we ended up winning our Cannabis Cut, was with a high CBD strain, the Perkins Cut of Catatonic, and it really all was in an effort to treat a sick family member, and I've been lucky enough in the time I've been doing this, which is a long time, to really help a lot of sick people find some relief, and some cancer patients find their appetite, and give some people maybe a little release from anxiety. And so when we set out, that's what we set out to do. And I mean, we do all right. I pay my bills, but most importantly, man, I'm just a regular dude that likes to hang out and talk about weed with cool people, and smoke weed with cool people, and help sick people, and I think that was the foundation of the business to begin with, and we didn't want to make it more complicated. In fact, I fought against many people that have asked me to make additional products where I could have probably made some more money if I tried to convince you that you could do better without this water. But
doing like amendments for something like that.
Yeah, hey, why don't you do this so people can add it? And so I give people the tea recipes on my website. I left the cards at Hydroculture, and the finer garden stores that all have the cards in there that have the actively aerated compost tea recipes on them, and that's a great addition to the soil. But if you want to do something, a lot of gardeners are hobbyists, and so they ultimately want to do something.
People like to tinker.
Yeah. And so we recommend the teas. You can add some mammoth microbes, but if you're going to add anything to it, you want to start it at a slur. You want to start it, at less than half of the recommended dosage, anything you're going to add, and you want to steer away from chelated products and lean more towards organic-based stuff.
Yeah, keeping it organic.
Are you looking to upgrade your game, especially when it comes to harvest time? One of the things I hate most is wasting time, and that's where Trim Bag comes in. They make things lightning quick. You could do 2 pounds in this in less than 20 minutes and have perfectly 90% manicured bud where you're just doing little trimming. Trim Bag has your back, and not only that, but they have quality products. This thing will last a lifetime. It's easy to clean, easy to use, and best for you. Now back to the episode.
So I have a quick question. I don't want to steer off too far, but going into some of that stuff, I know this is a living soil, and we have a lot of customers and a lot of people that have questions and get confused between a living soil and a super soil. So could you kind of break that down, and what is the difference there?
Okay, so a living soil is actually creating its own nutrients. It's not pre-charged.
Okay.
So a super soil is usually a pre-charged soil that has a nutrient load. Oftentimes it's too hot to start clones in or to pop seeds in.
Yeah.
So living soil, you can go actually start to finish. Super soil is more of those bloom soils, or some of those soils you see where they tell you to put that soil at the bottom half of the pot, and then you layer it, and from there. So this is a true living soil. So you're not breaking down any of your plant root. You're just allowing the plant to have a symbiotic relationship with the soil. And I can explain how it works really as quickly as possible. I'm a little long-winded, so I'll try to keep it short. But, so with living soil, you got 3 sources of amendments, or 3 sources of compost, and us is steer, chicken, and worm casting. And that's full of microbes. And so then you have your amendments, which are basically your nutrients in their organic form. And as you moisten the microbes, or as the microbes compost through the amendments, they break them down and they create plant available nutrients at the root level. And so the plant uptakes the nutrients, that it needs, but it doesn't break down that cork-like substance that is a plant, or the cork-like structure of the plant root, like a hard salt does.
Yeah.
You know, with a hard salt, you take those macro and micronutrients, you attach it to a salt and blast it through the root, and it breaks down the root. And so you're responsible for what the plant uptakes. Where in a living soil atmosphere, you leave that root structure intact, so the plant is taking out what it needs at every stage of its development. And then as the plant uptakes the nutrients, a byproduct of photosynthesis is natural sugars. And so the plant expels natural sugars through its root that's still intact into the soil. And natural sugars are micromultipliers. So the microbes multiply, and now you have more microbes breaking down more amendments, creating more nutrients. So the plant grows, it enters into a symbiotic relationship with the soil. And that is what a living soil is, as opposed to just putting some guanos and some other things that plants eat into the soil and having it a little too hot in the beginning and then fading out at the end. This is constantly creating those nutrients.
So we're really heavily relying on these microbes to really do the heavy lifting for us.
Yes, yep. And when you make the actively organic or the actively aerated compost teas, you're basically creating a stew full of microbes and sugars, and so you're just putting a lot of more energy into the pot.
Now we know a lot of people love to add their molasses.
Yes, molasses again, and so the reason we use molasses is it's the easiest carbohydrate for the microbes to break down.
Okay.
And you're basically multiplying microbes when you add molasses to your water. But you want to make sure, if you do add molasses to your water, you want to bubble it, because if you have stagnant sugars in a bowl full of water, it turns into mash, and you're then making alcohol. It goes bacteria. That's no good for your plant.
Yeah, you get that bad bacteria.
Yeah.
The ones
Our
we don't
plants are
want.
not drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's essentially the difference between living and super soil. And this is a living soil, not to be confused. There's a really, really common mistake.
Oh yeah, it's the one we hear all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, people, and 90% of grocery owners, when we walk in, they go, you're super. And my name is Tommy. My name's not Tom, and it's not Thomas, it's Tommy. And people, I'm constantly saying, they go, Tom, and I go, Tommy. And the same thing with living in super soil.
Yeah.
It's like, you're super soil, my living soil. Yeah, you're super soil, my living soil.
I think it's
really
one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about.
It's a slight variation. It's a very small difference.
But it's a big one.
But it's a big one,
Yeah.
if especially if you're looking up recipes. A lot of people want to do this stuff at home. And I honestly, and I'll tell you this, as somebody that makes a super soil, or I did it.
He did it.
So
He
somebody
just
that makes
did
a
it.
living soil, we get this a lot where people say, hey man, well, I could make that. And you can, and I recommend anybody that wants to make it, make one time, and then you'll come back and you'll never do that again. You'll buy bagged soil, because it's hard work.
Yeah.
We've got large machinery and stuff, but if you're looking up the recipes, you want to make sure you look up a recipe for living soil. And the guy that got me started was the Rev from Skunk Magazine.
Nice.
Wrote a book called True Living Organic, and so a lot of organic soil growers kind of swear by that as a reference, and that was where our early recipes came from. And then we built Subbies, Subcool's super soil, and then I came to this through the guys at IDK Farms in Michigan. Kind of turned me onto this, and this is the direction I went in ever since.
Fantastic. What other questions do you have going in your brain right now? I know you have some good ones going on.
That was a big one. I know, I guess we haven't really spoke about it here. So let's talk about the just add water, because that's a lot of people are skeptical about that. We
That's
have
a
we
fair
even have
question.
a lot of customers that are like, come on, just water, really. So kind of, I guess, break down how that works. Not how it works, but where we're at with just adding water, how long of a plant cycle we can get through just adding water.
So basically, it's going to go start to finish on any plant, as long as you have enough soil for the plant not to get root bound. So when you say it's just add water, Tommy, how long of a bloom? It will take you across your bloom.
Yeah.
You have to adjust your pot size for your veg. The length of your bloom is irrelevant to this. It's the length of your veg.
Because we're not really growing bigger roots in bloom.
Right. Yeah. Bloom, you're going up.
Yeah.
Veg, you're going down.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go approximately a gallon of soil per week of veg. And that's how long the soil will last. 3-month veg, you can pull off a 12-gallon pot or a 10-gallon pot. It's going to go all the way through bloom. It isn't just have water start to finish. Where people get sideways is when you get about week 5 or 6 of bloom, you start to see a yellowing canopy. And if you know anything about growing plants, that's how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, that's
The plant
natural fade.
is cannibalizing the unused nutrients that it stores in its fan leaves. And so that adds to your flavor. You don't get that bitter chlorophyll flavor when instead you taste the characteristics the plant's supposed, the flavor profile the plant's supposed to express. And so when people see that yellowing, they have a tendency to think like, oh, well, I ran out of gas. No, man.
You're just almost done with flower.
Yeah, trust the process, and so have a little faith. And again, like I said, we put our number on the bag. So if you get to a point where you think you need to add something before you dump something in it, let's call the guy that made it, man. Like, I'll walk you through it. I'll tell you where you're at. You can text me a picture. It's all good.
And we love to see the fade. That's like one of the best parts of growing.
Yeah.
Is seeing those colors come out right.
Watching it turn into what it was meant to be. Yeah. But you get people that get nervous when that happens and they start adding nitrogen and then the whole thing goes sideways. And if you feed a plant at the wrong stage in its development, you can also prolong your bloom forever.
You throw a bunch of nitrogen in at week 5 or 6, you're gonna have some problems.
Yeah, you're gonna jam yourself up. So definitely, it's gonna go the distance. The phone number's on the bag. Just don't overwater it is the trick. Sometimes you get people that they go a little hard on the watering. And again, we go by that 7% of the soil volume every third day.
I was going to say, that's a good point because that's a common issue. We have a lot of new growers here. We're Virginia. We're newly open to this. And that's something we see a lot is overwatering. So what's a good, I know you said 7% of your media. So that's a pretty good rule of thumb to go by, I'd say.
Yeah, for living soil, 70% or 7% of your soil volume every third day. That is for Great Lakes water only, tuned in about perfect is what we do. 7% of your soil volume. So in a 7-gallon pot, it's 2 quarts of water every third day.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah. You have to remember living soil is not like in cocoa where your plant is only being fed when you water it with your liquid nutrients. It's actually sitting in its nutrients.
So, and then you also mentioned, I guess, that we're not having a pH to water, which is a pretty common thing we all hear about when growing cannabis. So that mean I can just pour it out of my tap right in there?
I would recommend you dechlorinate it.
Okay.
So, and you can look up by county. You can Google. Some counties use chloramine, and some counties use chlorine. If your county uses chlorine, you can just let your water sit out, bubble off the chlorine in 24 hours. If your county uses chloramine, you're going to want to go to hydroculture, pick yourself up a filter, and filter out your chloramine.
Dechlorinator or something like that. Yeah, that's because what is the chlorine is going to kill off the microbes, right?
Yep, and it's just not good for your plants.
Yeah, you don't want to add any extra chemicals. You're trying to grow organic for a reason.
Right, and you start adding pool filtered water into it.
Yeah.
So, as somebody that's and growing with only your soil since the beginning of time, one thing I have definitely realized and seen myself is the effect of just the water only. I personally, in my last grow, the Acapulco Gold and what was the other one? I forget the name of it. But I think that plant did almost 8 ounces, and I didn't really do anything. I had fish shit to it and water, and I didn't even pH it or anything. And usually when I was doing soil, I didn't pH either. And it's just fantastic. One thing I want to talk about is your soil has a very soft, like almost like a conditioned context. Like when you put your hand in, it almost makes it feel like just nice and cool.
It is a lot lighter
very
than your
soft
typical bag
and light.
of soil.
What's the value of that? Why is your soil so soft compared to like these barkier soils or these heavier soils? Your stuff, it's almost kind of like a granular type. Some parts of it.
Well, you're feeling a lot of those aeration products in there, and we've got assorted rock minerals and azomite, and we've got gray basalt, which is paramagnetic rock, and so I think that adds a lot to the texture. We don't have synthetic wetting agent in our soil, so when sometimes you see people complain about it's a little hydrophobic. That's because we don't add a synthetic wetting agent to keep it's organic peat, and organic peat is hydrophobic by nature, so that adds to that grainier, lighter feel. So it's not coming preloaded with moisture and
Which means it's not coming with fungus gnats either.
right. It's not coming with fungus gnats, and if you have a soil that's moisture retentive, and you don't want to send it out wet.
Yeah.
This is not a product that you pre-rinse and load it full of water before you start growing. You want to actually water slowly, because once you get that moisture density in there, then you have to offset it. So that plays a big part in it. It has a lot to do with the ground bark that we use in it for drainage and aeration, the vermiculite, like I said, the assorted rock minerals adds all to that feel. And again, I mean, we brought in a group of guys after we developed the soil. I learned from some good old boys, but then we brought in some scientists to help us really get that aeration on point. And so that plays a big part into that light, silky feel of it. It's not just, we compost our castings twice as long as the state recommends. Also, so you don't have that clumpy manure feel to it. It doesn't stink up, it doesn't have a funk to it.
No, it actually smells so nice. I actually find myself sticking my head in the bag and taking deep breaths. I'm not even just messing with you. I swear to God, you can ask Mad Madam, you could ask anybody that's seen me with this soil. There is a really nice smell to this. It's clean.
Well, there's like bacteria in soil that it like releases endorphins or something in your brain, right?
Yeah.
When you get that like whiff of like fresh soil, it's supposed to like give you that like happy feeling.
Well, it does.
We are of the earth.
Yeah.
We're connected to it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think we all naturally react to it, and honestly, I mean, I don't hate on synthesized nutrients, because 7 billion people would have to starve if it wasn't for synthetic nutrients. I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
And so I don't hate on them, but I'm a pretty earthy dude. Like I'm connected to the planet, and so yeah, man, the smell of soil definitely does something for me. I'll tell you that. I mean, I believe you're right that it does release some endorphins. But
it's like dopamine or something like that.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I've heard that before. I don't know exactly, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So okay, so how does one just come up with all these ingredients, like the mineral rock, the magnetic, all these things you're talking about, which I'm still learning about. So I'm not an expert, just an average guy that grows weed. All these things, like how do you come up with a recipe? Like how do you even think of some of the stuff to add? Like, oh, I'm gonna add some rocks, and then I'm gonna add some of this, and then some of this, and then I know by doing so that this is gonna give me this type of ratio or type of build to the soil. Like it's just very cool and like genius on how you're just able to figure out, oh, this is what's gonna make it better, and then how you've created your recipe.
So honestly, man, like just some cooler guys than me got me started. And then I bought some books. I bought True Living Organic by the Rev, and he kind of goes through why he adds some of the things that he adds. Teeming with microbes.
I was gonna ask if you read
Another
that
great
one.
reference. There's a lot of really good books on the market. There's some really great YouTube videos about living soil, and then sourcing the material. Well, if you're gonna do it, there was a time when like Grokashi was big. I've got some friends in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that are really into biodynamic farming, and so those guys have kind of turned me on to a lot of different ideas. And if you're going to build soils, if you really want to be, super dope and you have the money, you want to get things that are sourced locally. Whatever is native to your environment, that's what you want to grow in, because then you inoculate your plants against the disease that's in your environment, because it's in the amendments that you're putting in your environments, and so there's a lot of curious ways to find out ways to build soil. In my case, it honestly started out because some cool old guys shared little information with me.
What's going on, guys? It's Madman Plant. We are back in the garden today. I got all things Petra. I am sponsored by Petra Tools. I'm what's called a super affiliate. I do a lot of content for them, and I spread the word about these great products that they offer. If you want to save money, you can use my discount code and save a whole bunch on your next Petra tool. I highly recommend this. I've done a lot of sprayers before, and I've tried a lot of different things, and nothing compares. And one of the great things about Petra is they have tons of models and tons of options. It is literally the best solution for any type of sprayer, from your foggers to your sprayers to your handhelds to smaller. They got it all, and you will too once you check out their website and see how great they are. Make sure to check out Petra Tools today, save money, and we'll see you next time.
Have you ever like gone, because you kind of was mentioning that makes me think of like going down the KNF road of like building IMO3s and like JLFs and stuff like that. Have you ever kind of looked down that road?
Yeah.
Like being an organic.
So honestly, you've heard of Johnny Cash, and just Johnny Cash and the Tennessee 3, and they were interviewing the bass player for the Tennessee 3 one time. And if you listen to Johnny Cash, all the bass lines are the same, you know. Boom, boom. And so they said basically all your songs, the bass line is the same. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, when you find something that works, you stick with it." and so I know an old friend of mine that actually bags my product was kind of a mentor to me one time. He said, "Hey, Tommy, the thing I don't forget is that I put dirt in bags. That's what I do, and I know what I'm good at, and I stick to it." And so, I'm a soil guy. I'm a soil builder and a soil amendment builder. You know, we build the mushroom products that we sell as well, and we do the worm castings, and we do an all-in-one grow kit for mushrooms. I know how to make mediums for bags. I've messed around, like we do the actively aerated compost teas and stuff like that. We get a kick out of it. But for the most part, the majority of what I do is just all in soil.
Stick it right here.
Yeah. If you get something, if you stick to one thing, you can do it well. Yeah. You know, and so that's what we try to do.
Now, I kind of want to know a little bit more about these cups you've won.
Well, so we've won a lot of regional cups in Michigan. We've been on the strongest strains 6 times with Death Star, OG18.
Is that strongest being like most like potency strongest?
So I believe the strongest strain was based on a number of factors. You know, it's a high time list they put out every year. We did knock it out of the park. I mean, we were one of the first guys in high times to get to 30%. Yeah. So we listed out really high on potency. A lot of it had to do with total cannabinoids, you know.
High terpenes.
THC isn't.
Oh yeah.
You really THC gets way too much credit. I mean, I got a strain that I used to grow called Sugar Dog, and I think the highest it ever tested out was 17%.
Wow.
And that shit would knock you down.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was super heady, and it would really slay you. It was just, you know, and then Ghost Train Haze, you know, it's got such a great flavor. Even if you press it and dab it, man, it's like eating candy, you know, and just coat your mouth in terpenes. So we had I believe that there was a number of factors in the strongest strain listings. In the cup, we had the highest CBD. When we broke the record, it was the highest CBD ever entered in a high times cup. Yeah, and that was with the Perkins cut catatonic, and that was grown living soil. And then a lot of the regional awards, a lot of IDK Farms did a cross of ChemStar or Chem 91 and Death Star. They called ChemStar, and so we won a lot of awards with that. Death Star.
I love some Death Star.
Yeah, Death Star is on my list of favorite strains. I really like Death Star. I really like Death Star.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a Mac. I have a Caps Cut Mac that I'm doing right now. How
are you liking that?
You like double hash heads on it.
Yeah.
It was gifted to me by some friends of mine at Integrity Gardens in Oklahoma. Sent it out to me, and man, it's killer. Like, people really, I smoke it with my friends, and they're, hey, can I buy some of this? You know,
I feel like Mac 1 is one of those strains that's just going to stick around for a while.
it's going to be like a Gorilla Glue.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time where so many people grew. I wouldn't grow Gorilla Glue because of so many people
I
were growing
love it too much not to grow it.
Yeah.
If I'm not growing Gorilla Glue, I'm growing something with a cross of it.
If you were growing in 15, 16, 17, after you grow it
Yeah.
over and over and over, and that's all anybody wants.
Yeah.
You know, then you're just like, look, man, I don't grow Gorilla Glue anymore. Like, I was
Gotta do
so
something
happy when
different.
Cap finally became, because really Mac was what, I mean, that Gorilla Glue went all the way to Mac. You know, basically you went from green crack to Gorilla Glue to Mac, and you know, those were your big, you know, headband was a huge one. You just couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, Wi-Fi from OG Rascal was like, there was a time when everything's a Wi-Fi cross.
Or like the old SFVOG. That was
yeah.
that was a favorite of
Yes.
mine.
Yeah. Triangle. You know, Triangle.
Oh yeah, I've
Kush
seen
was
Triangle come back a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good strain. You
Yeah.
know? And that's a Florida strain. People,
Yeah.
You know,
that's
like,
the original OG Kush, isn't it?
and yeah, it might be right.
Or maybe like a pheno of it or something like that.
It's affiliated to it somehow.
Yeah. Because I know the original OG Kush came out of Florida too.
Yeah. There's some great breeders in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, Death Star came from Ohio. These are states without a legal home grow.
Yeah,
That never
I
had
don't think
one.
Florida's legal.
No.
I mean, we
No.
have some great growers.
And that was back in the day before Florida was even thought, like Florida.
Oh yeah, Florida was
getting-
late to the game, and that Triangle Kush came out. I mean, those guys were outlawing down there, and like I said, Death Star out of Ohio, you still can't grow at home in Ohio. You know? And that's been around for how long? You know, so yeah, it's there's a lot of good guys that do a lot of, you know, fantastic breeding underground, man, and to push the numbers you have to push to get, you know, F5s. That's a big risk. And you lose a lot of breeding. You don't realize you're growing all that weed and you can't sell none of it because it's full of seeds.
Yeah.
And so the next time you're talking to a seed breeder and you go, man, $100 for a pack of seeds, that dude couldn't grow any flower for all those plants, and he had to grow it, back cross it, all that work. People have asked me why I never became a breeder myself, and I was like, you know how much freaking work is in that?
And I think that's a lot of things. People miss that. I think a lot of people don't understand how much work actually does for proper breeding. Now, obviously, these days we have everybody's
a pollen chucker,
this way and that way. But for proper breeding and building like a really stable line, that takes years of work.
Yeah.
Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are fantastic, and they've really been able to stabilize their genetics.
they have a stable line. That's Cinderella 99.
Oh, that's Cindy 99. I grew that. Man, that is fuego. And they've got a couple of great strains that I've grown and just had incredible success with. I mean, they grow they produce some really stable genetics. Crockett Family Farms.
Yeah,
they do some really good work.
That's why we sell the I like to sell the Humboldt seeds because they're very like the blueberry muffin. If you pop any seed in that pack with a blueberry muffin, you're getting blueberry muffin.
DJ Short, another fantastic breeder. His blueberry is
really
his blueberry is so dank, it's incredible, and he's a Michigan guy, so
nice.
we get to run across him from time to time. We got some great breeders in Michigan.
Yeah. I like some blueberry.
We got Leaf Doctor, is a good friend of mine in Michigan.
Nice.
East Side OG, really good, good dude.
Michigan's got a nice emerging kind of
yeah
market, or not emerging. They've been there.
Best weed in the country comes from Michigan.
All right.
Right now, Virginia ketchup.
Yeah.
We're catching up. I think we're doing really well, and I mean, it's only a matter of time. Plus, with as active as everybody's seeming to be, and I'm sure it's been going on way longer. I mean, they can't go back. Let's just put it that way. They've already screwed themselves. They can't go back. That's like trying to take people's guns away now. It's like, that's not going to be a good idea.
Well, the pace can go back in the tube. Yeah.
But anyways, listen, we are out of time for this time's episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up real quick before we sign off on this podcast with you? I definitely want to have you back, and sometime I definitely want to go up to your territory, to Michigan. I think Paul knows some people up there, and do a little tour and maybe even see, where it all goes down if possible or something like that. But is there anything else that you wanted us to know or people watching to know about you, your products, anything?
Well, there's not much about me that anybody needs to know, but
I guess that's true.
Remember, your environment is everything. And, you know, and when you talk about cannabis, the reason we talk about the cups is this. Honestly, anybody worth their salt will tell you the same thing. If you want to grow good weed, it's genetics and paying attention to the basics. So everybody is looking for the next, latest, greatest thing. What's the thing that's going to make my shit fire? The thing that's going to make your shit fire: humidity, light, temperature, genetics.
Yeah.
If you keep the basics intact, you will grow fire. There is no one-stop shop that's going to cure not paying attention to all those things. That's how you grow good stuff. So keep that in mind when you're growing. Is your environment is everything. A clean environment and having it tuned in is really, really important.
I think that's where a lot of people miss too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. I mean, everybody wants to phone it in half the time, and then what can I do to grow that good
dump
weed?
more bottles on it.
Yeah. You know, how can you should if you're constantly going to the grocery store to buy things to fix things, there's an easier way for you.
Yeah.
You know, a little premeditation it goes a long way.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's it. That's what I would leave on.
Perfect. Well, you heard from the man himself, Tommy, not Tom, not anything else. Tommy is here in the grow studio. Paul from Hydroculture. If you haven't been to Hydroculture, you need to go. They have the Manassas location and the Fredericksburg location. We'll also soon be teaching classes there, and it's going to be a variety. So it's not just cannabis, and that's kind of what we're talking about too. Is this is great for everything, and there's a bigger world outside of cannabis, and this is the perfect application for it. So if you need soil, if you need anything for your garden, reach out to either Hydroculture if you're local or Tommy directly at DetroitNutrientCompany.com. And get your bag today, and make sure to enter my giveaway, and the winners are going to win one bag per person. So we'll see you guys soon.